Guys, this is getting ridiculous. We gotta move on from Gwen. I even made a Miles Morales video, but you guys had to see Gwen Stacy, huh? I'm not gonna lie, y'all are obsessed.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
And I'm gonna be honest, I did get a little carried away with that video, but I'm a very dramatic person sometimes. That's just my personality. To all the new people, I'm cool, trust me. And you know this is all my opinion, and you guys listen to my opinion because I have a nice voice, apparently. Also, speaking of new, we're at 3K already? I mean, what? That's awesome. Oh, this is random, but on Twitter we were talking about how unfunny Spider-Gwen is in the comics, and it's part of the reason why I love her so much. Like, she was fighting this French person and said, "It's big American cheeseburger time." And then I put one of my favorite panels in there where she's fighting with Captain America and says, "Look at that, erectile dysfunction," among other jokes. I hope you guys see why I fight for this girl in every single video. And what's more is that she's purposely trying to be funny. Like, come on, Gwenny. I think they sort of use that in the movie when Gwen calls Spidey 2099 a bunch of names.
You're the Blue Panther.
No.
The Caped Blue Satyr?
No, I'm...
Dark Garfield.
No, stop.
Macho Libre.
I'm from another dimension.
And speaking of that, I think I realized why Miguel is so angry looking all the time. He has to deal with hundreds of spider people who think they're the funniest person alive. Like, yeah, I'd be throwing trash cans too, pal. Oh, and guess who this video is about? So today we're going to be discussing why canon events aren't real. This is a completely normal theory that has no reason for me to fight for Gwen's life at all. So rest assured, I'll be normal. You guys win this time. So, let's get right into it. So, for starters, Miguel says this about canon. You can disrupt one, but if you do too many, it can destroy a dimension. And even then, you could destroy the entire multiverse. He has two disrupted events to back his evidence. First, him replacing his alternate self, and the second one is Miles saving Inspector Singh and dark matter gets everywhere. So, let's prove these two wrong. First, what event got disrupted when he replaced his alternate self? Why did the world get destroyed because of that? Possibly because he left his home dimension to join that one, but in that case, why didn't his home world get destroyed rather than the new one? What event is so similar to every spider that they can't replace an alternate version of themselves? And for the second, I think the stuff happening on Earth 50101 isn't related to a canon event, but is more likely happening due to the collider spitting out dark matter everywhere, which I'll get into later. I want to structure this argument in a very cohesive way, I think. So first I'll explain the canon event that was disrupted in Gwen's world and how that makes Miguel's argument fall. Then I'll use one of the MCU's reasoning for dimensional destruction. And finally, I'll explain why Pov's world is doing whatever that is. I don't think this video will be long, so first look at this. Cool. Now you might be asking, why make a video on canon events? Well, it's partially because no one's made a video on it, and also that it's crucial that you recognize they questioned canon events twice in this movie, which means that it's something we should question too. That's just how storytelling is. Think of Chekhov's gun. If they draw attention to it in one scene, it will be important later. It's why they show Rhino in the Go Home machine, and then at the end of the movie, Miles and Gwen use it. Basic storytelling devices. Okay, so Miguel presents several examples of canon events, and we see that a big one is a spider must experience the loss of a police captain who is relatively close to them. For Miles and Gwen, it's their fathers. This kind of shows why Miles is so shocked that Gwen would let her father die, but as we know, Gwen at this point in the movie isn't the biggest fan of him. Now Gwen goes through most of this movie believing in canon events until Miles says goodbye to her. At this point, she's seen her friend fight so hard for something he believed in and succeed in escaping the Spider Society. In my last video, I wrote that she felt pain in this moment, but I also think that this was a wake-up call for her. That's why she makes this face and isn't straight up crying, because now she's got a new sense of purpose. I mean, her friend was fighting this hard against canon events. Maybe there is something off about them. So she questions Miguel and asks if he truly knows what'll happen if a canon event is broken. Now, I don't remember exactly where, but I remember someone saying that when Miguel threatened her, he was avoiding the question. This is because he has some doubt in his theory about canon events, but we should get to that later. Now Miguel sends Gwen back to her world with the knowledge that her father will die right in front of her, and he probably wants her to sit there and watch it happen even though she could easily be like Miles and prevent it, which is exactly what she does. Also, how can you hear Gwen say this?
We are supposed to be the good guys.
And then Miguel says this?
We are. We are.
And still think that Miguel is trustworthy. Okay. Also, this is one of Gwen's hardest lines in the movie, but this video isn't about her, so let's continue. Gwen confronts her dad, and at this point, I think Gwen has the best emotional scenes in this movie. I mean, they have a lot of heart in general, and just being in Earth 65, they can get really artistic and creative, and we get some really visually perfect scenes. But back on track. Gwen's father says that he isn't going to become police captain, and Gwen is bewildered momentarily. However, she's smart enough to realize that her canon event just got disrupted and nothing happened. You can see that because she mumbles,
You're not gonna be captain?
So what did we learn in this scene? Miguel's theory that Miles' father has to die for the multiverse to stay intact is pretty dramatic. Gwen's father didn't, and her world didn't cause a rupture or anything significant. So what's the deal? Why is this happening? Well, to put it simply, canon events aren't real. And it's kind of funny because the scene goes down almost exactly the same as the comics. And even then, Gwen's father doesn't die in either the Spider-Gwen or Ghost Spider runs. So yeah, this is technically her canon event, not whatever Miguel is talking about. Okay, one other thing you guys are saying that I want to add is that Miles is an anomaly and that all of these canon events Miguel is talking about shouldn't apply to him as his story is being written in real time. Any of those other pre-planned events are for the Spider-Man that died. Also, if Spider-Man died, shouldn't his universe have exploded? Like, all of the other canon events would never have happened to that Peter Parker anymore. Anyways, I'm getting off track. Hopefully by now you guys realize that this theory that your dimension is done if you don't follow canon is not valid, but let's continue. So, Miguel's main experience with breaking canon is watching his alternate daughter die in his hands while the universe around him is destroyed. The main issue is that it's hard to pinpoint which canon event was broken in order for all of this to happen. Maybe his alternate daughter was supposed to become a Spider-Woman and he stepped in after her father's death. And maybe her father was meant to be a police captain or an Uncle Ben-like figure, I don't know. So if we can't decide what event was going on, and if you guys know it, then comment it please, but let's assume there was no event. Then how could his world end up like that? Well, one thing you guys love to say is that he's causing an incursion. Now we know that the MCU is canon to this franchise as Miguel explicitly references Spider-Man No Way Home and names the MCU's designated dimension as Earth 1999-99. He also name drops Doctor Strange, so we know that he's aware of Strange's multiversal capabilities. Now, it's explained in MCU lore that there is an event called an Incursion, in which if a person stays in another dimension for too long, then they can cause it to collide or destroy itself. And after reading that, I realize you guys are spot on. Miguel spent God knows how long on another Earth, and his multiversal tech was probably in a very early stage, so he likely caused an incursion. And wouldn't you know it, but that universe was destroyed. One thing I like about this movie is that it has cameos, but it's not even the biggest talking point of the movie. Like, for the MCU, that would have been their #1 seller in the trailers. But this movie's story is so good that you don't even care about the cameos that much. Anyways, I say that because we should care about this name drop. I want you guys to keep this in the back of your mind when you watch Beyond the Spider-Verse, or maybe even when you rewatch Across the Spider-Verse. I think what Miguel had experienced was definitely an incursion. And being a Spider-Person, he blamed himself for being Spider-Man as the cause of the damage, and was so overcome with guilt that he never considered incursions. Instead, he blamed it on the rules of being a spider. It's what everyone signs up for when they take the job. Oh, one last thing, I don't read the 2099 comics, but I know it's shown in the movie that Miguel doesn't have spider powers like the rest. I think it had something to do with DNA splicing, and he's got like half the spider's DNA in him, but not enough to make him a superhero, so he injects himself with the venom. I just think it's interesting because, as several others have pointed out, Miguel's trio consists of Spider-Woman and the Scarlet Spider, both of whom have never gotten bitten by a radioactive spider. So that's probably going to come into play later. Although, Gwen packed up Scarlet Spider really fast, so I don't know if he's gonna be a big deal, y'all. Finally, I think it's time to explain why Pov's world is doing that. So, we could say it's incursions because it's kind of similar in how it looks, but personally, I think it's because the collider was activated. It's really that simple. So, in the last movie, when Kingpin was testing out the collider, people assumed it was earthquakes. However, it was obvious that this was not an earthquake because it did a Banksy.
Yeah, I think it's a Banksy.
So, that means when the collider goes off, and it did, dark matter is sent out into the surrounding area, and as you can see, dark matter is already on the outside of the Alchemax building. I think this occurred because the shield was broken, and that's why it hasn't happened in any other dimensions that are notable. Oh, also, look at this. Anyways, with this dark matter spilling, I'm assuming it's just like the last movies, but more severe, since this matter is directly touching the ground. Thus, this isn't the result of a canon event being disrupted, and that event was Miles saving Inspector Singh, of course. So after all that, maybe we should think about one thing. Does Miguel know for certain what happens if Miles breaks a canon? And to be honest, I don't think he does. All of this tragedy, these necessary events for every Spider-Man, it's something an elitist comic nerd would say. This whole movie is showing you that you can write your own story. No one is supposed to write it for you. And it's quite ironic because these are fictional characters that canonically have comics written about them. Anyways, what I hope you got out of this video is a new understanding of how to perceive Miguel. He's trying to justify the tragedy he's been through, and to be honest, he's not doing a good job with it. But in the end, we shouldn't let some big hulking figure tell us what to do. Look danger in the face and say, what's up, you know? I really hope you guys are picking up the themes of these Spider-Verse movies because they're really good in general. Live without fear, fight for what you believe is right, be responsible with your power and the power of friendship and family, as well as finding a place where you fit in and not forcing yourself somewhere you don't. In every dimension, you matter, and there's always someone who will fight for you, as well as someone who you should fight for. Anyways, I want to thank you guys again for helping me reach 3,000 subscribers. That's so amazing. But if you guys want more Spider-Verse stuff, I made a playlist for it at the end of this video. Leave a like, comment what you want to see next or anything that I missed in this video, and subscribe for more videos like this or reviews on other movies. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.
Damn, baby, come jump off the roof with me, live off your youth with me before they shooting me. With all they cameras and bullets, I swear I'm the man up in France with the hooligans. Yeah, I'm up with stand up.